Welcome back to Let's Make a Game. In this video, I would like to talk about typing complicated code and ways that you can minimize the chance of making a mistake. So let's look at an example. I'll just highlight it and then I'll zoom in so you can see it. So we have this line here, set y equals y dot replace. So we're working with a string here and we're looking for instances of this text and we're replacing it with this string, which is going to be taken from this array, and it's going to be a randomly chosen slot from that array with the value between 1 and co.length minus 1, which means the length of it just means the length of the array. That co.length minus 1 just gives you the length of the array. So what that means is it's a randomly chosen slot from the co array, which in this case is different colors. And it's got a lot of brackets, it's got a lot of square brackets. If you use a square bracket for a bracket, it won't work. If you swap a bracket and a square bracket, it won't work. If you have one too many brackets or square brackets or one too few brackets or square brackets, it probably won't work either. So if you can just type this out in order and not make mistakes, well, that's great. But if you find that in doing this you sort of get lost, or you find yourself thinking that you've done it right and making errors, a way that I find that helps is to do it from what I would say from the outside in. And what I mean by that is I'll demonstrate. We go set y equals y dot replace something with something. So you start with the basic structure of the command, which is that we're using this replace option, and you fill that in and you get the brackets for that right, and then you put in the quotes and then you put in the comma, and once you see that that's right, then you start to fill in the terms. So the text is probably pretty easy. We can do that with no problem. And then we might go CO bracket. So we're filling it in with something from the CO array. And then next, I would do that. So it's something from the CO array, and the number of the array, the number of the slot in the array is going to be random. And that's going to be 1 to something. And the thing it's going to be 2 is that co.length minus 1. So as you can see, I've typed this out exactly. We can see that this is exactly the same as, actually I'll move it up to make it a bit easier to see. We could easily see that what I've typed just then is exactly the same as what was here, but it wasn't sort of complicated at any point because I was just doing it one element or one part at a time, starting with the overall command and then filling in the details and then sort of filling in the details of the details. Another thing that I have found helpful is counting the brackets. So what I often do, if I'm not sure if something's right, is I will go from left to right, and each bracket, each starting bracket like that, or like that, I will add 1, and each ending bracket, like one of these 3, I will subtract 1, and I start at 0 and it has to end at 0. If it doesn't end at 0, I know that I've either miscounted or I've mistyped. In this particular case, we have brackets within a text, within quotation marks, and so we could actually have something like that and that would still execute. It just wouldn't quite give the result that we wanted. So we wouldn't get an error, but we would get output that wasn't exactly right. So let's do that with this. I would go 0, 1, because I find that one, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then at the end there's 3 ending brackets, so that brings 3 down to 0. So I know that, unless I've miscounted, of course, I know that at least the number of opening brackets and closing brackets is correct. I could still make an error because the brackets could be in the wrong place, or I could have used a square bracket when I was meant to use a sort of normal bracket, but at least that sort of makes it likely that I haven't. If it was more complicated than this, and if it had mixed square brackets and normal brackets, I might do it once for normal brackets and then once for square brackets, just to make sure. So those 2 tips, if you find that you have problems with big bits of code like this. Also, if you sort of find yourself starting to type and then going, actually, I don't know what goes where, this technique can also be a good way to work that out, because if you know that all of the commands that are involved, you can pretty easily go, okay, well, that's the format that it has to have. Well, what is it? What are we looking for and replacing? Well, I know we're looking for and replacing that. What are we replacing it with? Well, we're replacing it with something from the CO array, so that has to happen. And how do we determine which slot in the CO array? Well, it's a randomly chosen one. And we know that if we're choosing from the whole, from all of the slots that have been filled in, we know that we do that, the array name dot length -1. So that can be a way to sort of sort out where everything has to go as well. So I hope that was of use to at least some of you. This is a shorter video than ones I've been doing recently, but I hope it was interesting, and I hope you will tune in next time.